Good morning, guys, and welcome to the show, Fernando.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Today we're going to talk about my super simple, easy way to figure out ohm loads on multiple drivers. It's real simple to just do, let's say 1, possibly 2, but what if you have 10 or 12 or 100 speakers? Well, today we're going to show you my method for doing it fairly quick, so stay tuned. This is a dual voice coil woofer. That means it has 2 voice coils inside of it. Some woofers, like this one, will have a set of leads here and a set of leads here. Some manufacturers put both leads on one side, like this Rockford T1 here. It's 2 ohm this way. If we pull it, and we flip it, it's now an 8 ohm driver. It's kind of cheating, right? The reason for the dual voice coil is so that the manufacturer doesn't have to make 2 ohm driver, a 4 ohm driver, an 8 ohm driver, and possibly a 1 ohm driver. It allows them to make fewer drivers. This is a dual 1 ohm subwoofer, which a lot of manufacturers are doing now. The ohm load we can get with this is either a 1/2 ohm or 2 ohm. If this was a dual 2 ohm driver, we could get a 1 ohm load or a 4 ohm load. And if this was a 4 ohm driver, we could get a 2 ohm load or an 8 ohm load. Knowing that, like, real quick, is what we're gonna learn today and how you can do that. That means we need a pen, we have a piece of paper, let's get started. What I like to do is draw a woofer, positive, negative, negative, positive. And that's how I start. The next step is finding out what ohm load I'm going to be dealing with. Dual 2, dual 4, dual 1, whatever it is. For this experiment, we're going to be using dual 4s, but once we learn the basic concept here, it's not going to matter. So that means we got 4 here, we got 4 here. Next, we need to know what our amplifier is looking for. As we said, with a dual 4, we can either get a 8 ohm load or a 2 ohm load. The amplifier we purchased is capable of producing a 2 ohm load. We bought the right woofer. To hook it up, we're just going to put jumpers across this, and that's going to give us a 2 ohm load on this one driver. Now, if we have 2 subwoofers, we have to figure out, oh hey, what are we going to do? Because there again, we have 8 and we have 2. This is either going to give us 8 and 8 is going to give us 4 or 16, or this combination is either going to give us 1 or 4. If our amplifier is that same 2 ohm amplifier, well, this isn't going to work. So we would need different subwoofers. Let's not worry about what the amplifier is going to be. Let's figure it out the other way, because we can always interchange these numbers to figure out what we need to do. How we're going to interchange this to get that 8 ohm would be putting a jumper across the back, coming off of these 2 here, and that's going to give us that 8 ohm load. 2 8 ohm loads equal a 4 ohm load. All right, we have 4 woofers. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all 4 ohm DVCs. DVC stands for dual voice coil, SVC stands for single voice coil. This can either be 8 ohm or a 2 ohm. So we have to figure out which one we want. We'll put 8 here, 2, 8 here, 2, 8 here, 2. Let's figure out for 2. If we had a dual voice coil 2 ohm driver, we'll say right here, dual voice coil 2 ohm driver, we can either have a 1 or a 4. That's what that's going to be depending on whether it's series or parallel. If we have 4 2 ohm drivers, we can either have a 4 or a 1 and a 4 or a 1. Now if we wire these 2 up and we get a 4, 4 and 4 is either going to give us a 2 or 1 and 1 is going to give us a half. As you can see, yeah. Now let's go the other way. This can be 16 or this can be 4. This can be 4, this could be 16. Every time we narrow this down, think of it as just 2 woofers now. This is a dual 2. And we can just pyramid down to getting to the 1 speaker. If we keep going here, we end up with 2 4 ohm loads or 2 16 ohm loads. Well, we're never going to use the 16 ohm load. That's just silly. But we have 2 4 ohm loads. This will get us to a 2 ohm load because now we have that DVC 4 ohm. For math, this is where people get confused. They see all these numbers and it's like, no. Every time you knock this down, you're essentially creating another dual voice coil diagram because you've narrowed this down to just 1 voice coil. You've narrowed this down to 1 voice coil. All right, so now you have a speaker as a dual voice coil. Let's do one more and just kind of to get a better feel for that. We'll draw those same 4 drivers and now they're dual 2s. As a dual tool, like we set up here, It could be a 4 or a 1. We want to make them all 4. 4, so we'll go 4, 4, 4, 4. Draw another circle. We have a dual voice coil 4 ohm because this is one speaker, this is another speaker. Think of it as it's its own voice coil. And we know that a dual voice coil 4 ohm can be either an 8 or a 2. Well, we want to go 2 because we were trying to get down low. So now this is a 2 and this is a 2. Draw another circle. We have a dual voice coil 2 ohm driver. We're back up to here. It can either be 4 or 1. So it's going to be a 4 or a 1. Well, 1 is what we want. We've achieved that. Boom. But the question is whether we're going to do series or parallel. And that's why I draw the plus and minus. So let's start here and we'll draw those same 4 again. Now whether you have 4, you have 8, you have 20, it doesn't matter because as you see we're just combining these things down. And this is going to be the same 2 ohm, 2 ohm, 2 ohm. And we're going to draw plus, minus, minus, plus, plus, minus. See, they have to be the opposite because that's how they're wired on the speaker. You don't have 2 positive on this side, 2 negative on this side. They're always opposite. As we said, this could be a 4 or this could be a 1. We want it to be a 4. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put jumpers on all of our speakers. So now what we have is 4 4 ohm speakers, or there again, another set of voice coils to deal with. So we have a negative coming off here, we have a positive coming off of here. We'll just draw it down here. And then we have the same here, positive, negative. We now have to take this and combine it together. We're gonna take all the positives, we're gonna take all our negatives, and that is gonna give us a 2 ohm load. And if you've done half of it, it's real simple to do the other half. So we'll take our positives, come down here, we'll take our negatives, we'll come down here, and we'll get it 2 ohm. Now we need to get to that 1 ohm load. So we have a dual voice coil 2 ohm driver, positives, negatives, positives, negatives. We want that 1 ohm load. So that means we're going to just bring the positives, the negatives. And that'll give positive, negative at the amplifier, and we have 1 ohm. If we do this twice, the same thing twice, let's say we have 8 subwoofers, and we have 8 2 ohm subs, we know we're going to end up with a 1 ohm load here. If we have another, we're going to end up with another 1 ohm load with 4 other subs. That's going to take us to a ½ ohm or to a 2 ohm because now we have dual voice coil 1 ohm subs, and dual voice coil 1 ohm subs are the same thing. We have either a ½ ohm or we have 2 ohm. So we have to choose which way we want to go. So the shortcut to this method is understanding this basic principle first. If you have 3 drivers, you have a dual 4, a dual 2, and a dual 1. If you go series, you have 8 ohm, and if you go parallel, you have 2 ohm. If you go series, you have 4 ohm, you have 1 ohm. Series, parallel. Once you know this, it's just a matter of recreating that multiple times. And that's the trick. That's it. That's all you have to do. You can use this and keep creating that same scenario all the way down. So let's do a giant as our last. Let's do just a giant amount of subwoofers. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll do 16. So we have 16 subwoofers and they're all 2 ohm. What are we gonna do?
Right.
That's a possibility. First off, we have to kind of figure out where we want to be in the end. But to do that, let's start just working the problem. And as you're working through it, you're kind of getting an idea of where you're going to end up. We'll take the first 2. As we know, it can either be a 4 or a 1. I like to start high. Meaning I'm going to start with as many of these in series as I can because I'm working down towards a lower ohm load. I had a lot of woofers getting down to a 1 ohm or 2 ohm load, and I'm starting at 2 ohm. I'm going to have to go high. So I'm going to turn each one of these into a 4 ohm. So I'm gonna go high and make them all 4 ohm. So they're now all seriesed. And once I've done, I'm not even gonna worry about these because that's no big deal. Actually, I'm not gonna worry about anything but these 4 right here. I'm gonna work the problem smaller. So these are 4 ohm. I'm gonna combine these 2 together, and that's gonna get me a 2 ohm. I'm gonna combine these 2 together, that's gonna get me a 2 ohm. Now I have to decide because I have that 2 ohm speaker. Do I go 4 or do I go 1? In this case, I probably wanna go 4 because if I go 4 and 4 here, it's gonna give me 2. 4 and 4 here, 4 and 4 here, that's gonna give me 2. 2 and 2, 1. I can combine all these woofers and I can be over here at a 1 ohm load. That was it, see? I just figured out how to do 16 drivers by simply working the first 4. All right, guys. That's the math, that's the craziness of it. If this didn't make any sense to you at all, I apologize. But this is my method that I've been using for the past 30 years to kind of figure this out and have it make sense to me. If this made sense to you, well, congratulations, you're welcome, and I, go forth and do great things. Fernando, if you please.
On to the next one, guys.
Thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, you have a great night, and we will see you later next time.
Bye.
See ya.